Thank you all for coming. Happy Friday. Thank you for all the familiar faces, the new faces. We appreciate how you have been showing up all week. So today is the last day of this specific event, but not the last day of us. So keep in touch with all these people you've been learning from. We have two today. First one is Sekou. So we first met because he has been here before. So every year we get the privilege of learning his journey as it's evolving. And up to this point, he is now an independent data analytics consultant and the founder of Get the Merch Royal Blue Analytics. He's Power BI and Tableau expert. He hosts 10-Minute Tuesday podcast, which I just put in the chat, and is a Tableau ambassador. He is passionate about teaching, empowering communities, and turning raw data into actionable insights. So, welcome, Sekou, and I will let you take it away.
Great. Thanks for the introduction. It's always nice when I get to talk to you and connect. All right. Hey, everybody. Happy Friday. I am very relaxed and chilled. So if you have questions and stuff, put them in chat, engage, all that stuff. So let's go ahead and dive into this. I'm excited to be able to talk to everybody. And we are good. Can you see my screen? I want to say yes. Good.
Yep, you're good.
Perfect. Awesome. All right. So see, as mentioned, I'm Sekou Tyler. I've been in the data analytics space for about 10 plus years. And I'll walk through today of how I turned a side hustle to launching my own data consultancy. So my journey to becoming self-employed. So really excited to dive in this and talk about stuff that I've learned and some things that I'm learning on the fly as well. So why start a data consultancy to begin with? One, the opportunity, right? Let's think about it. Like there are so many tools, there's so many resources, there's so many things that are out there that most companies are either struggling in-house to have enough talent, or people are moving around, or there's just not a specialization, or they're so immature in what they're offering that they need extended advice. So as a consultant, right, there's a lot of different things. And then just the amount of data that's available, a lot of different things, especially with generative AI. There's just so many things out there that people are starting to leverage data. And so within there is just such a need for people who are really good at the craft, whether it's data, analytics, visualization, data science, data engineering is always huge. Now you have AI with, AI consultants, AI specialties, so on and so forth, right? People are starting to spend money for that to give consultancy. So gigantic opportunity to just be an expert at it. And then number two, right? I think people need to talk about this openly. Financial independence, like the monetary capabilities out there is just huge. So with financial independence, if you have consultancy or become independent, you technically have your own capabilities of charging your own rates. Now, people will pay for your rates. That's one thing, or you get them to pay for your rates. But you can charge your own rates, choose your own clients, create multiple streams of income, and then your element of being able to get financial independence becomes a lot higher because you're able to charge much higher rates than typically you would if you have traditional employment income. So think about this self-assessment. Are you ready? One, you think about going independent long term, think about your technical skills. So as I mentioned, right, data visualization, data analytics, data engineering, data science, AI, all this different stuff. Where are you at in that element? I think technology is always going to be ever evolving. So you're always going to grow in the skill set, but really take a self-awareness of what it is that you like. And then how does your technical skills tie into number two, which is business acumen. So you have all the technical skills in the world, but if you don't have the business acumen or understanding some of the operations, some of the different things that are involved with it, you might have a struggle. So not saying you have to be an accountant or be the best account manager or, be the best person for running business operations. But if you're thinking about going independent, you're going to wear these hats unless you outsource it. And probably starting out, you're probably going to have your own accountant. So you're probably running your own QuickBooks. You probably generate your own leads and will managing your stakeholder requests and everything. And then you probably understand what your business operations look like. So, creating statements of works or proposals and all that, right? So think about even though you have the technical skill sets, number two is how do I operate efficiently and have that? And then number three, think about just your personal readiness. So evaluate your financial runway, support system, and commitment. I think the first part here is financial runway. They say, you should have 6 months saved up if you're thinking about going independent and betting all on yourself. I personally didn't do that. I had money saved away, but mine was I had an opportunity to get 3 months of a full-time contract, and it was 3 months at a really good rate. Actually, I'll be transparent. It was 3 months at $150 an hour. And I was like, you know what, if they give me 3 months, I'll be able to turn three into six. There's like self-belief there. And so within there, it wasn't as much of a calculated risk because I had money coming in. Now, if you are the type that's just like, all right, tomorrow I'm gonna jump ship and I'm ready to go, make sure you have 6 months saved up. Make sure you actually have a pipeline built up. Make sure you have appropriate things set aside for you there. But if you do have a potential opportunity and it's sustainable revenue and your lifestyle is fine with what you're getting, go for it. But we'll talk more about that as we go dive deeper into here. Support system's huge. When it comes to the readiness, make sure you have the appropriate field. So events like this, black ties or connect with fellow self-employed independent people is massive. It's a journey, and to have the appropriate support system is huge. So think about that. Who's around you, who understands the language, who can really understand what you're going through. If you can't have it like person to person, face to face, like how can you find virtual networks, or how can you make it yourself? So you really will need a support system if you're thinking about it. And then level of commitment. If you want to be successful in this, if you're thinking about this going full time, it takes energy and a dedication and a internal tenacity that you have to keep it going. So, just make sure you understand what the commitment really is. Talk to other entrepreneurs, talk to other people, talk to other independent consultants who are doing it, and talk about their journey and just take that assessment. But take that assessment. Think about these three things. If you're thinking about it. If you're not at every single area, that's okay, right? Just understand where you're at and where you need to grow at. So when it comes to my journey, when I think about my journey, I started in data analytics in 2014. So really what a lot of people are seeing is 10 years worth of work. It's just now kind of surfacing since I'm technically a CEO or run my own company. So I'm able to have different conversations with people. But I've really been at this thing for like 10 years. I like to say that Power BI is my first love because I went to how to create a dashboard in an hour meetup. And it was just like, oh my God, what do you mean I can like create this dashboard and these people will like answer some of the questions and leave me alone. I don't have to write custom SQL scripts. I can, create this dashboard. I can answer their questions. I can go off to something. Ever since then, I was hooked. So I've always been in the BI space ever since then, and experienced with a lot of different tools. So Power BI, Tableau, Click, Looker, Omni BI, Sigma Computing, just all the different BI tools, right? So it's more or less learning the concepts more so than the tools itself. But Tableau and Power BI are my two favorite because they are the top two tools out there. So it's like, all right, if I'm going to learn these things, I might as well learn the best ones. So that's been my journey. When I started in 2014. Now, when it came to taking on first side projects, this happened during COVID. And what's happening is that I started posting more of my Tableau visualizations and some Power BI, but I started getting active in the community. But then I started posting more of my work online in LinkedIn and other places, on Twitter, actually. On Twitter and LinkedIn were my two places that I actually posted a lot. And what happened was I got some recognition, recruiters started reaching out to me. I actually had some companies looking for me. They were just looking at what I was posting and just like, hey, are you interested in taking on any side work? So it wasn't anything that I was actively looking for per se, but I always had recruiters or people contacting me. So in 2020, I took on my first side project and I was still working full time. So naturally, there's just a grind there, right? I still had my 40 hours, 45 weeks per hour. But then also I was taking on projects like 10, 15, hours a week. So probably working about 60 hours just to understand it because I ultimately knew I wanted to be independent. I just didn't know what they looked like. And so taking on that piece of it, I was able to understand more of it. So did that 2020. Then I ended up leaving the company I was working for. In 2021, I worked for a consulting firm called Lovelytics, which changed my entire trajectory because from there I actually was, instead of working for a organization where I'm just part of the data team, I was actually able to work for a consulting firm who specialized in data analytics. So I got to experience a lot of different industries working for the consulting firm, but then I also got to wear a lot of different hats when I was there. And it was my first management role per se. So before 2021, I was individual contributor, a developer. I think I was like a senior analyst or something like that. But when I went to Lovelytics, I was a director. Then I got the senior manager, and I got up to managing director. And I had people up under me, but then I also got to learn how to create a statement of work and what the business was charging and how to partner with different organizations and some of the language and some of the calls and how do you generate leads, and all while still learning technology as well, right? So I was still hands on, but I was able to learn a lot of the little soft skills and understanding rates and quotes and different things. And so those 2 years when I was at Lovelytics really changed the foundation for me launching my own thing in 2023. I'd like to say that in 2020, I thought I was ready to go independent and by myself, but realistically, I wasn't. I think had I made that jump in 2020 without working for a consulting firm, I would have been underselling my services. I wouldn't have understood some of the appropriate rates. I wouldn't understand what conferences and how to like get business out of conferences and different things of that nature. So I think working for, not I think, I know working for that consulting firm, Lovelytics, helped change its trajectory because I got exposure to a lot of different things. And there's still things that I do that I learned from Lovelytics that I still implement and do today. So I'm gonna pause. See if there's any questions in here. Cool. No questions. Let me keep going. All right. So one, finding your niche, right? Everybody, not everybody, but a lot of people can go independent and they're like, what does that mean? I work in data analytics. I love strategy. Now, the biggest piece is like when you're independent, why will people pay you to do what you do? You have to understand what your niche is and be able to communicate that. So really, above all else, you have to identify the problems. You got to look for like different challenges that industries or people or organizations are looking for. Like what frustrates your potential clients that they would pay you to come and help them out with. If you're not constantly identifying a problem, then you could potentially lose potential clients and, not be as busy as you could be. So step one, you want to always identify your problems. Step two, match your skill set. So align market needs with what your unique experience is. So as I mentioned, Power BI and Tableau. One of my best like propositions that I like to articulate is that I understand both worlds. So I know how to do Power BI stuff and Tableau, and I do Tableau and Power BI stuff. So it's kind of like I'm a unicorn in that area where I can do, if there's a migration, we can help out with any type of migrations, or if it's data visualization, or if I just need a project, I'm not just all in one product, right? I can take whatever the revenue is. So if I have like any downtime, I could look at Tableau or I could take a Power BI, but the revenue is coming in regardless. So, look at what your master skills are, and then where do you bring in the value? Where are you at? How can you help out? And then how will people pay you, or what will they pay you? And then test the demand, validate your niche through like conversations with potential clients or with friends or people in your network. And just have conversations of saying like, hey, I've been doing this thing for so long. I'd love to have a 5-minute conversation. Let's talk about it. And then, thinking about going independent, here are the things I'm solving for you as a business owner or as a managing director of analytics or as a director of analytics. What would you pay for this thing that I'm potentially trying to solve? And then you can start having this conversation with people. Then you can understand kind of the value, what it is that you're trying to solve for and what you're trying to share. And you get real-time feedback with people that you trust versus just going blind and just like not having some of these conversations. You might come in and think what you're trying to solve for, there might not necessarily be a demand. So have conversations with people that you trust. All right, so your unique value proposition. So you want to craft your unique value proposition. So basically, your value prop answers why should clients choose you over alternatives? As a self-employed independent, why would someone pay you where they can go internally and just upskill their person, right? So what is the thing that you're bringing in? What is the value that you're bringing in? If it's, let's say you come in and you can create end-to-end solutions where I can write your Python scripts, I can create your medallion architecture with your data engineering, I can create dashboards, and I can do predictive analytics all on top. Your unique value proposition in that area is that I can do 4 different job elements all in one place. You don't have to necessarily outsource it to 4 different companies, where if you come to me, I can do these 4 different things at once, right? That's just an example. But how do you craft what you do and why people would pay you and why, I can do this at 3 times faster than what you currently have, or I have this package solution, or we have this package solutions that will get you insights to your answer is faster, right? Think about how whatever it is that you're doing and draft up your proposition. So you want to make sure you have specific outcomes you deliver, unique approach to methodology, articulate what it is, why people want to work with you and how your results are faster. articulate your experience or perspective. So again, I've been in the industry for 10 plus years. I like to say I have 10 plus years of data analytics experience in Tableau and Power BI. So I articulate that, not saying like I'm just a junior or I'm just figuring out, right? You talk about your experience of what you've done, or I built out, 100 different dashboards for five different industries, right? I don't know, whatever it is, but you want to make sure you articulate your experience. And then if you have specific special industry knowledge, this can go a long way as well. So if you're a healthcare expert, you have a master's degree in healthcare, or you've been working in manufacturing logistics and you pivoted and moved into the data analytics space, that domain knowledge is huge, because what can happen is that sometimes companies might hire a consultant for, again, let's say a Snowflake migration or Power BI implementation with reporting. They might not have the industry domain knowledge that is there. And there's always going to be a learning curve. So if you know like standard like manufacturing or healthcare or different things of that nature, like the back of your hand, that is valuable as well. So think about like your historical career and what you've done, and how can you leverage all that, package it up, and then go after those different clients. And then test different versions with trusted contacts until it resonates clearly. So just keep drafting on this. I think your value proposition is going to change, especially as you evolve and as technologies evolve. And just always keep testing your unique value proposition. So number one, building your brand. You got to start creating a brand. If you haven't already, people need to find you. People need to understand what it is that you want. Whether you like it or not, you're going to be Googled. The moment, if it's word of mouth, if it's a referral, if it's something on YouTube, you got to start building a brand. You got to be intentional about your brand. I want to always stress the emphasis, especially now in this general AI content lane, that it's really easy for people to have thought-oriented opinions online. So example would be if I was a head of data engineering and I was hired on, here would be the first thing that I would do to change this landscape. I would do that, so on and so forth, right? I've seen that post a million times where it's a hook, it's brought in, you're looking at it. I think the strongest thing for anyone who's still going to be technically and hands-on and you're delivering services, if you're not going to be just a CEO hat or just the account manager or managing director, but you're actually going to be the person developing, you need to have a strong technical presence. So I think you should always draft up, whether you're learning in public, whether you have a GitHub repository, whether you have a YouTube channel, whether you have a newsletter, then you should always post technical content, because that's going to stand ahead of the curve versus anybody who can go to Claude or ChatGPT and create messages and get engagement that way. You get a number of likes, but where's your technology presence? Like, how are you learning in real time with the changes? And I think that will help your brand long term if you're always evolving and always showing your technical chops. Because if someone has a budget of X amount of dollars and they only have so much they can spend, if they see that this person is continuously learning and learning on the fly and they're building, or they picked up this new thing in this skill set, or they picked up this thing in Power BI, your brand starts to leverage is that, yes, you could be a thought leader, but at the same time, I'm really still technically very strong. So you can have best of both worlds. So before all that, always just be technically strong. And I think that goes a really long way. So with that, personal brand, but then you want to create a business brand. So if you're going for like the LLC route, for example, Royal Blue Analytics, you want to have a digital presence. So develop a clean website that showcases your services and have case studies and referrals and testimonies and all that. You can leverage that. Look at existing like kind of consulting firms and kind of look at what they're doing. And you don't want to take it one for one, but kind of look at how stuff is approached. And then if you have friends or existing work or former colleagues or whatever, referrals go a long way. Number two is messaging. So craft clear, consistent language about what you do and the value you provide. Again, Royal Analytics, we are a BI data engineering consulting company to help you get your insights faster using modern tools, right? Something of that nature, right? But the emphasis on we help you get your insights. So think about that. You have your client experience. Then design every client touch point to reinforce your brand promise and professionalism. So, thinking about that as your brand. So when people think of either you or your company, make sure the experience is really great, as best as possible. That way, every single client can have consistent things to say about you. And then visual identity, create a professional logo, color scheme, and templates that reflect your expertise and personality. Also want to make sure whatever name of your entity that you're using, if you're trying to do an actual consulting firm or just yourself, if you do want to create like a consulting firm, again, Royal Blue Analytics, you want to make it a name that's easily accessible and that people can think of and remember organically. You don't want to be too complex where it's just, long on the tongue. We want to make it, something visually appealing, and brand oriented. So think about that as you're thinking about the names. The easier it is and more memorable, the better it is for people to recognize it and remember it. So, legal foundation, I want to put on record, I'm not a lawyer. This is not legal advice. These are different things that you can leverage if you want. If you do this based on my conversation, I'm not held hostage or anything for what I'm saying. But there are different structures that you can do. You can be a sole proprietor. Basically, it means you is under your name. So if you're a sole proprietor, people will hire Sekou Tyler, and that's easy. You would just have your social security number and you give them, and they contract to you. But then you have personal liability. So if something were to ever happen, they would sue Sekou Tyler. They wouldn't sue your other entity. But if you have an LLC, there is protection with a little bit of complexity. It's not super hard to set up an LLC, but basically it's just a separate entity that allows you to contract out as well underneath it. So an example of this is if I was a sole proprietor, people will hire Sekou Tyler, but then if I need to bring on help, it could be a little challenging because they partner with Sekou Tyler. Whereas if Royal Blue Analytics, they partner with Royal Blue Analytics. So then it's say I have a really good contract, I have really good clients and stuff. They have different needs, then I can hire up under Royal Blue Analytics and the contract still runs through Royal Blue Analytics and it's all the same. So it's a little bit easier for me to bring in additional resources because they partner with Royal Blue Analytics, not Sekou Tyler. Similar concept for S Corps, LLC, S Corps. There's different tax advantages when you get above a certain income level. So as I talked about financial independence, best case scenario, you start reaching higher income levels than what you did when you're W-2. So you have different revenues. So there's different tax strategies that you can leverage when you're at S Corp than what you would as if you were at LLC. So something to think about as you grow and evolve. But I definitely think starting out, if you're just taking on like when in 2020, I was a sole proprietor, I was 1099 or W-2 under Sekou Tyler. But then when I went on my own in 2023, I set up my Royal Blue Analytics LLC. So now everything is running through that. And everybody partners and connects through that. I have a separate EIN, have different business license and templates and all this different stuff that comes along with it. So biggest piece of advice I would definitely do over if I could do it again, would start with a business attorney. Just get those upfront fees, save it, get set up really great on the front end. When I went in 2020, I wasn't set up that great. So I had some maneuvering I had to do in 2023. And then get an accountant as well. So make sure you have a really strong accountant. It's worth every single penny. And I would like to say accountant slash tax strategist, two different concepts. You'll see in people online. But I would say get a strategist for the stuff that you're going to bring in because hopefully best case scenario, right? We are coming in, we're bringing in a lot of revenue and we're bringing in more than what we're used to. If we have a strategist, they can just say like, all right, have you thought about putting this in there or investing in this? So on and so forth. That way, when our taxes are due at the end of the year, we've talked to this person throughout the month, so there aren't any surprises. Whereas if you might just have a bookkeeper or an accountant, they're just reading everything that you've done, might not necessarily be making recommendations so that when January, February, March comes, it's time for tax purposes. You're like, oh my God, I can't believe I was $60,000. What the heck? What happened, right? So think about having a tax strategist as you talk about, have a meeting with them all the time, look at your dollars, and then it's their job to kind of come up with recommendations on things that you can do and certain tax advantages that are out there. When it comes to documentation, you want to have a business license, any type of permit. Typically, consulting firm, you could go in person or remote. If you're a remote, I don't have any permits for anything, but I do have just, standard business license. I have my EIN. I have a contract template that I leverage, and then I have NDAs as well. So documentation that you need as you go for it. But again, look for these resources. The accountant and the attorney can help you with those documentations, or you can go online and stuff and build it out for free. But I highly recommend just spending the money up front with someone who's done it for a long time and you'd be set up for success. All right. Insurance considerations. People don't necessarily talk about this part. When you're thinking about insurance, one, when you work in W-2, you work for an employer. So typically they will pay for your insurance. When you are on your own, you don't have health insurance. You got to figure it out. Luckily, I'm married. My wife is working as well. So we're able to be on her insurance plan. So honestly, I had to deal with the health insurance part. I kind of planted that seed like 4 years ago because I knew I was going to do it. So I was like, hey, babe, I think we should go on your insurance plan. And from there, was able to make the switch pretty easy. But if you're not, definitely start researching the health insurance. I know that it is higher doing it on your own. There are different things out there that are available, but definitely think about that, right? Even though if your contract, let's say you get a contract at $150 an hour and you are making 40 hours an hour, so on and so forth, you need to have a percentage of that for taxes and you need to have a percentage of that for insurance. So realistically, your take home rate might be less than what you might be banking out. So just think about insurance, what's available, what options you have around with you. But if you are married and you're thinking about going independent, highly suggest thinking about this being on your spouse's coverage because it is much easier on the other side. Step two, professional liability. So definitely critical. Got to have liability insurance is there. There's different levels, but you just want to get something. And then as you grow, you just want to grow your liability insurance. It just helps you out overall. Most firms or clients, or if you're partnering with stuff, ask if you have liability insurance. So it's not too expensive. Coming out the gate when you're first starting, everything's going to feel like it's expensive and I'm spending money on everything. But once you get in a good rhythm and you created revenue and stuff, the liability, general liability, and cyber liability is it's not too awful. But starting out, all these like ones and twosy fees, you're like, oh my God, I'm spending so much money. But you got to have it. You don't want to go rogue. You don't want to be riding dirty. So get the professional liability, get the general liability, get cyber liability. Just because we're handling sensitive data with data. So you just want to make sure you have everything and have your tracks covered. All right, setting your pricing strategy. The biggest piece, different components here. The simplest and most basic one is hourly billing. So in this example, I am $75 to $150 an hour, depending on your expertise. This is simplistic, right? Someone comes to you and be like, hey, how long would it take you to create a dashboard? Let me see your data sources. Okay, I think it'll take me 60 hours to create it. At 60 hours times $100 an hour, $6,000 was create a statement of work for $6,000, right? Really simplistic. You're charging by the hour. It's not that big of a deal. It's cool, right? I think a lot of people use hourly. I still use hourly. Um, and yeah, hourly is really simplistic to do. You do it, it's great. Fixed project fee. All right, starting out. Fixed project is enticing because there's a lot of times if we don't scope it out accurately, then we think like, all right, I can do this. So for $5,000, I'll be able to build out 6 different dashboards in 3 weeks, right? No big deal. Give me the money, bring it in. But we haven't scoped it out. We haven't talked about it. We don't really know some of the nuances. So if you're going to do a fixed project fee, make sure you're not underselling. And the math you can do is you be like, all right, if I estimate that it's going to take me 100 hours at X amount of dollars, and then I want to do a fixed project fee of saying it'll be this, and I want to charge for my skill sets for it to be this. I want to charge $6,000. Whatever your fixed project number is that you think you can be and that you want to take, add on additional 25% to that. Typically, what's going to happen is that you might be thinking that you can do it and you haven't discovered some unknowns. I have a really good uh, learning pain from a fixed project fee where my arrogance and my ego got to me, right? I came to a fixed project and I was like, I'll do this for $5,000. And it was a migration of reports. And it was a nightmare. It was an absolute nightmare. Luckily, I had a friend come in and save the day, but I undersold my services so bad. What they needed, it was awful. And if I could do it again, I probably would have done an hourly rate with it and I would have scaled it a little bit more. But starting out just aggressively and just hungry and just like, man, I need to get everything I could take. Um, it was a really, really big learning process that I got in that one. So if you're gonna do a fixed project, just make sure that you just build in a buffer, you scope it out really well, you get good requirements, and then just have like something in there that says, once this thing is delivered, then I will go to phase 2 of the project, or we need to create a new statement of work. Because if not, these fixed projects can come to just bite you in the rear end. So fixed project is there. Retainer agreements, these are awesome. I had a really good retainer agreement with a client. Basically, it is just for a monthly income. So for $4,000 a month or $2,000 a month, whatever it is, I will be your services. So anytime you have any updates or anytime you need a new data model updated, or I need a new SQL query, or I need a new report built out, we are your person. Come to me, come to my team. And for a fixed income or monthly income of X amount of dollars, we will fix it out. Retainers are awesome because sometimes some of the stuff is like maintenance type ordeals, or it could be new requests, but you're getting reoccurring revenue this way when you have a retainer. So I like the retainer ones. Hourly billing retainers are awesome. There's a new one that I'm testing out. It's value-based pricing. Basically, this is saying like you are offering a service or a product at this amount of dollars, and here's what the client is going to get on our ROI. So it's just like think of it as a let's say an example. I did a Tableau to Power BI migration. I wanted to offer value-based pricing for your migration of 10 reports. We would charge you $20,000 for this amount of money. And here's what you're getting out. Your ROI is blank. You will get 2x of speed, and you will get documentation, and you will get this, blah, 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 blah. You're lumping a whole bunch of things together in your value-based thing. So when you think about value-based pricing, the challenge and the goal is that you are at a place to where your skill set is so great, what you're doing is so swift and so efficient. You can go and say like, for this amount of dollars, we will give you this amount of value, and your client ROI will be blank. So value-based pricing is a new one that's kind of coming out. More people are kind of talking about it. But again, it just depends on how you're at and where you're at. So the easiest one is hourly. That's really simplistic. The one where you can really get a lot of potential like profit because it's such like if you're providing a high dollar amount, it's value-based pricing. All right, so think about this, right? How do I find my first client? What does that look like? Start close to home. Hit up previous employers. If you didn't burn any bridges, connect with your old managers and say like, "Hey, I'm thinking about doing some part-time work. Do you have any assistance? Do you have anything that you need?" Start with people that you have a connection with. Start really like small. Do professional connections as well. If you need to, connect and find other people, like just start talking to people that you know. Connect with alumni networks. Go to different events. And then go to industry associations. Again, I'll talk for myself. I go to Power BI, I go to Tableau, go to different things. So I'm connecting with a lot of different people there. And know I'm available. But start with the things that you know. You don't have to spread yourself so thin. Start in areas that you're familiar with and talk to those people. And start from there, have the conversations. And I like to say it's a numbers game. So an example would be for every 100 calls or conversations that I might have, I might get 50 replies back. Of those 50, I might have 25 as actual leads. Of those 25, 10 people might actually need services. And then of those 10, 3 people might say, all right, I will actually sign this contract. So if you're banking on, I've talked to one person and it's going to guarantee that I'll get some revenue or a contract out of it, you're like selling yourself short. You got to have like a lot of conversations, a lot of talks. You got to talk to everybody, like just communicate and talk to as many people as you can. Because then what will happen is typically, especially people in your network, once they know you're available, then you can be front of mind for the services that are being offered. So if you are good at branding yourself and saying like, I'm the Power BI, I'm the Tableau, I'm the Snowflake, I'm the Databricks, I'm the data science, whatever it is, right? You know what your brand is. If you're able to clearly articulate that, you become front of mind for people when they're like, oh, I know a girl or I know a guy that does Power BI work. So start having these conversations and planting these seeds. And the more seeds you plant, you'll just start seeing traction and momentum. It takes a lot of effort. Like, I'm not going to act like it doesn't, but it takes intentionality and a lot of effort to have these conversations. But talk to as many people as you can, communicate, talk to it, because you never know what seeds you planted. And then get in front of people as well. If you're not a public speaker, go for it. Like, build it out. It's much easier to express your services to a room full of 50 people than it is to have one-on-one conversations with one person. So start speaking at like different networking events, start speaking at like different meetups. If you're going after different industries, let's say there's a nonprofit thing, find some virtual sessions that you can go and talk about. So how do I do data storytelling with nonprofits, right? So find some services there, whatever it is, right? But start speaking because it's much easier to do that. If you're thinking about expanding your reach, LinkedIn is always there. Like I said, you can start creating content and posting it. You can find people on there. Find online communities. So whatever it is, if it's Snowflake, Databricks, Tableau, Power BI, whatever it is, find the communities, connect with them, communicate with them. Local business groups, in person, this stuff is awesome. I like to say that the biggest piece that I think some people don't focus on is they're so tool centric that they forget they're solving a problem. And if you go to places where you're the only one who's solving a problem, it's easier for you to sell your services. So as I mentioned, if you go to say a nonprofit networking event, more than likely there's only like 2 or 3 data people there. And of those, one might be a data engineer and the other one might be someone on data visualization. So it's much easier for you to connect with people who need your help versus you going to a user group where there are 100 Tableau developers, or 100 Power BI developers, or 100 SQL analysts, or 100 data scientists, whatever it is, right? And there's a need for that as well. You want to connect with other people, like-minded people. But if you're going in to just try and find if you're trying to go there to sell your services, it's just much easier to be the only person in that room. So that's worked for me. I recommend it, especially in your own neighborhood, your own neighbor. Go to the events there and start selling your services and just talk to people. And then Black Entrepreneur Networks, like we're doing now, connect with people. I'm a big proponent of Black people need to stick together. I'm trying to build like a Black mega force of people. And even though I know a lot of people, a lot of different things, I want to bring the next person up. So even if it's not Royal Blue Analytics, I'm always looking for the next person who I can help out. If I don't have anything, the moment I hear somebody has something, I'm like, all right, I met this person at this event. They're really strong at this, and let me connect two and two together. So, connect with people and be there for one another. All right, proposals are hard, but basically you just want to make sure that you have a good structure. So identify the client challenge, focus on the outcome. So make sure you are talking about what they're going to get out of this. So don't just be like, we will build you this, and this is all strategy and high level this, or this. Focus on the outcome. So you will get 3 dashboards connected to 3 different data sets that will convert, I don't know, something like that, right? You want to speak to ROI. You want to speak to what they're going to get out of it in your proposals. And then in presentation, professional design with your branding, clear, concise language, no typos or errors. So if you can leverage PowerPoints, I switched. I had a PDF that was really wordy, but I switched to a PowerPoint that is really 4 or 5 pages now, and it's really short and sweet and to the point. And it's easier for executives or account managers or whoever else is looking at this to look at this information and it be clear and concise. So just think about how you're presenting it, and then test it out with people as well. If it's your first time building a proposal, send it to somebody that you trust who's non-technical, who's not in the world. Just be like, hey, do you understand what it is that I'm showing this proposal? And then get feedback on there, and then craft it up. But proposals are hard. You're always gonna like ever change them, and you just get better with time. So proposal types, as I talked about, fixed fees. These are well defined. Client budget, certainty. So really, if you have a fixed fee, you might say my fixed fee is $10,000. Well, the budget might be 8,000. So you're like, I don't know if I want to take this 8,000, even though I just started out. But you know what? I'll do it. What could potentially happen is you have scope creep. What that means is that even though you defined it as we'll build out 3 dashboards, well, there's this whole data engineering piece that is not available, or we didn't think about this particular portion of this in this project. So we are at risk of going over budget. So then you start doing free work. But because you took the fixed fee, you're giving away free work. So that's why you need to make sure that well-defined projects are good. Times and materials. So these are best when there are a lot of unknowns, because I could just charge you for the hourly rate while you figure it out, or while we figure it out together. I'm not penciled in or stuck in this fixed fee. Flexibility, fair compensation is very easy. Just be like, hey, $150 per hour for this type of work. It's much easier to do that. Sometimes there is client budgeting uncertainty. So because it is T&M, the client can come back and say, well, our budget's over with and we don't have it, so we got to make cuts. And then because you didn't do a fixed fee, you don't have that lump sum of revenue, so you're off to find a new client. So, you kind of want to make sure that there is some budget there when you're talking to people. And then, as I mentioned, value-based solution, high impact, high profitable, but you just got to make sure that you are just justifying the ROI and what they're getting back. So if you're just saying, we will do this, and there's no ROI articulated to the person, value-based is going to be hard to sell. All right. So as I mentioned, you're going to wear a lot of hats. So in this one, we're going to manage client relationships. So you want to set clear expectations, define deliverables, timelines, communicate cadence up front, document everything as much as possible. If you need to, the best thing, one of the best hires I ever had is a project manager, Summer Williams. That's my homie. She's great. She's a fantastic PM. She is really great at doing these things when it comes to communicating, and you're wearing a lot of hats. So it's going to be hard to just be the accountant, the manager, the blank. So when you get to a point where you can actually bring in help to streamline your resources, spend the money. It's really well thought out. It's really awesome. But if you don't have it, right, just make sure you're documenting and clearly delivering. Use AI with this stuff as well. There's a lot of tools out there that can help out, especially when you're having like different meetings, different Zoom meetings. You can get the transcripts. You use AI to kind of get the pain points and deliverables, and then you kind of have a timeline. So use AI where it makes the most sense. Share regular updates. I like to say that you don't want to deliver any surprises. So if you can deliver an update like every week, so every Friday, here's what we accomplished this week. Here's what we're working on next week. Here are any challenges that we're facing, right? Simple email thread, but the more you communicate that, the more your client is happier. Exceed expectations. So I think the biggest piece when it comes to this is if you can um, under promise, over deliver. So if you think that something is going to really take you, let's say 5 days, maybe you just say, hey, it's really going to take me 8 days and you deliver it in five. That is much easier and gives you more credibility to the client versus saying, like, all right, this is going to take me 5 days, but then you deliver it in eight, right? You said one thing, but then you promise it the other way. So build in a buffer, but then deliver on that. So if you're saying, like I said, 8 days to deliver this thing, but I deliver it in 4 or 5, it makes you look like a superstar. So always exceed expectations where you can, and then just communicate if you can. Just get on the front end and say, hey, I know I said this is what happened, but here's the hiccup, or I have something personal happen in my life. Give me another day or so, and I'll be able to knock it out for you. And then you want to gather feedback as much as you can. Continuously improve your process and request testimonials after successful projects. And then gain the trust, build the seeds, keep building with people that you worked with. So oftentimes what can happen in this data industry is that if you knock out a Power BI project or Tableau project or Snowflake project, or Databricks, whatever it is, if you knock it out the park, you can become their go-to partner for anything going forward. So knock it out the park as much as possible, keep the relationships, and then it's also much easier to get repeat business than it is to find that new business. So keep a good relationship where it makes the most sense and check in with people that you worked in with before. Saying like, hey, it's been 3 or 4 months since we worked together, or it's been 2 or 3 years. We're working on Power BI stuff. Is there anything you all need help with? And then just have those conversations because you never know, like, I don't need help, but my friend over here needs help. And let me connect you all two together, right? So continue to gather feedback and stay in touch with people. Common pitfalls to avoid: business killers, underpricing your services. Understand what the business is. I understand, what we do, especially as our demographic. We undersell our services. Understand what people are charging. Even now, I'm technically underselling my services. I've seen what some people are like their quotes are for different things. I'm like, wow, that's insane. But don't understand what market value is. Understand what your skill set is. Understand what market value is. Have conversations with people and what people are charging. Um, because that's the number one killer, right? And a lot of times, if you're hands on keyboard, you're really good at the craft, you're really good at the skill. Understand what you should be charging because you need to charge that rate. Have unclear client agreement. So make sure your stuff is clear. Everybody is on the same page. We have 3 deliverables that will be delivered in this time frame. And when this is over, we will build out a statement of work. You have just like a lot of gray areas that can just be hard and it's just challenging to get over. Taking on wrong clients. I think you just have to go through growing pains here. But you need to identify who's the right client, and it's not always monetary. Sometimes you might have people with some jerks, and if you can spot it on the front end, you don't have to take them on. You can do stuff later, or just be like, no, this is not the right time. Or if you're really at capacity, and I've done this early on where I've spread myself too thin, and at a certain point, it's like, even though I'm chasing the dollar, I can't chase it. Let me not do this and spread myself too thin. But it's okay with saying no. No is awesome. As a freelancer, I think that's one of the main power that we have in life is the ability to say no. So understanding what the client is it a good relationship? Am I feeling 2025 energy post Trump administration with people that I'm working with and my skin color is this? Different things of that nature, right? Understand who it is that you're working with. And if it's not a good fit, you can say no because there are other people that need your services. So understand the clients that you're working with and just be okay with saying no as well. And then inadequate financial planning. Don't spend everything that you're gaining. Save some for a rainy day because when you're hot, you're hot. Sometimes when you're not, you're not. So make sure that you just have a buffer for that downtime through the journey of consulting. So because if not, then it'd be challenging. Right now, it's all on your shoulders. But make sure you're planning ahead of what you have that back end. If you don't have the back end, just work really hard to just build and save and stack up. And then success strategies, as I mentioned, research market rates, use detailed contracts, define ideal client profile, and then maintain a 6 month cash buffer. So you can do 3 to 6. Just depends on your threshold of risk taken, but 6 months good. I mean, the more cash you have, the better, right? You can never have enough cash in this industry. Financial management. So separate business and personal. Manage your cash flow, plan for taxes, set aside 20-30% for your taxes. Make sure you make your quarterly estimated payments to avoid penalties. And then monitor profitability. If you're using QuickBooks, there's a lot of stuff there. Just make sure you're monitoring of your profitability and then know what your hourly rate is. And then as your statement of works go up, you have a really good relationship with people, make sure that you tack on 5% for what you're doing afterwards. So just be like, hey, I know I came in at a rate of $100. We've been working on together for 6 months, a year, whatever it is. I would like to increase my rate to 110 and see what they say. You won't know until you ask, but always try and tack in additional rate as you evolve and get credibility with the client. All right, scaling your operation. You want to build a team, start with contractors. I have contractors. Everybody's 1099. It's just easier to do that. So as you start to grow and expand, get contractors, get people who are doing things you're not really great at. I got a PM, I got data engineers, I have data analysts, I have different things. And then I'm still hands-on keyboard as well. So, build out a really good team. You start small. You don't have to figure this thing out in a day. You're not going anywhere. So just figure out what it is. Expand your services if you want to figure out what it is that you like. If you don't want to expand, do the things that you're really good at. We're a Tableau and Power BI shop. We'll probably pick up another BI tool as it grows and evolve. But right now, we specialize in Tableau and Power BI. That's what we're really good at. But you always want to look to it. You don't want to spread yourself super thin to where you're not driving value and your clients are upset, but you don't want to be alienated and just picking up one thing at a time. And then have systems and processes, document methodologies, create workflows that function independently of you. I was really proud of myself. Like 2-3 weeks ago, I was able to go take Friday off and everything worked out while I was gone. But I was so hands-on. Normally it's just like, all right, I got to send this email. I got to, do this at this time. So build out process and stuff that allow you to work on different things. Market your expertise. You want to make sure that you have content creation. So always blogs, videos, podcasts. Make sure you have all that stuff. Talk. People need to find you. If they can't find you, they can't hire you. So make sure you're visible some way in that regard. So always have content. I think that's number one. Speaking engagements that I talked about, just talk. Go somewhere, talk to people who, wow, even if you don't know that it will turn into a client, just go speak. Go speak as many times as you can where it makes the most sense. You never know how that affects your brand. Become a speaking leader. If you have case studies, sometimes it's good to partner on different things. So you have a good client success story. You we work through this together. Maybe you create a white paper or some type of documentation. So get a case study. And then strategic partnerships. That's been my prayer for the entire year. Legit has been strategic partnerships. So you want to collaborate with people who provide complementary services to you. So example of this, we work on BI front end, Power BI, Tableau. Maybe there's some data engineering stuff. I like to connect with data engineering peeps because typically if there's business that I have and I'm not going to do it, I'll throw it to them. Vice versa, data engineering peeps. They're like, hey, I need really strong developers. Y'all have any bandwidth? So on and so forth, right? So work really good together. Find those things where you complement each other's services because everybody wins in that regard. Work-life balance. You figure it out. We always do, right? Entrepreneurship, you got to figure out what your balance is and what it looks like. Some days, don't let social media and stuff fool you into being like, all right, I'm going to log off my laptop at 1 o'clock and that's it. Sometimes you might have to get up at 5 and you might have to go to sleep at 11. But when you get to the point, you can't skip the grind. You have to put the work in. If you put it in the front end, then yes, you can do some of those crafty time saving things and you can clock out and not be present and stuff. But starting out, you need to put the work in and it needs to be there because you should have appreciation for what you're building out. And it's all on you. Typically when you're doing this, there isn't another W-2 or a check that's coming in 2 weeks or whatever. It's all on you. So you should have a fire burning within you to push it and keep grinding and do everything. But then when you get to a point where it's sustainable, right? There are seasons of life where you need to go really, really hard. But then once it's to the sustainable element, yeah, set clear working hours, set boundaries, set different things. Understand, communicate with clients I'm only available from this time to this time, or have that, different areas of communication. Create dedicated workspace. I have an office upstairs in my house. This is my workspace. Legit, as soon as I'm done talking here, I'm leaving this office and I'm not even going to talk about data stuff for the rest of the weekend. Schedule non-negotiable personable time. So whether that's in the morning before kids wake up, or if it's in the evening from 5 to 7 or 7 to 10, whatever it is, right? Just schedule just time for you yourself, and then build a support network of fellow entrepreneurs. Huge. And what you'll find out is that people are willing to talk to it as well about their entrepreneur journey. So have people that you can lean on and just be like, hey, have you experienced this? Or, what are you doing to build out work? Or what are you doing? And it doesn't have to be a data entrepreneur. It's anybody who's starting out, who's an entrepreneur. because you start understanding the language and stuff. So, build out a network of people who are successful. Fellow successful entrepreneurs. I want to put an emphasis on that. Sometimes people are entrepreneurs and they're just like, I started this thing and it hasn't scaled or anything, right? So, you want to make sure you surround yourself with people who are successful or at least trying really hard. Your business should enhance your life, not replace it. So, yes, the grind is there. Yes, the money can fly in. Yes, there's different things. You can get financial independence. You can pay off your debt. You can be debt free. But it's not your life. You have to have some boundaries there, and there is a balance that you figure out. All right, resources for Black entrepreneurs. AI made this slide, but this stuff is out there. Black Founders Fund, Backstage Capital, SBA, a lot of different networks that's out there. There's a whole bunch of other stuff, but check it out. This is really cool. Score mentorship is awesome as well, and there's probably stuff in your local city. So check out anything wherever you live at. Look at like the state website and see what they have for like different entrepreneurs there. A lot of different things in different areas in your own city, in your own state. And then if I could leave you with this biggest piece, you're like, all right, I'm ready. I have my 6 months saved up. I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to go. First thing you want to do is register your domain name and business entity. You can go do that today if you wanted to. This week, define your services, create a simple website. AI is out there. Leverage AI, build out a website, get it out there, get it running, define what it is that you want to do. This month, reach out to 3 potential clients in your network. Talk to people who you think will want your services or people that you used to work with or whatever it is, right? Have a conversation with people this quarter. See if you can get somebody to secure your first paying client, deliver exceptional results. And this year, build a sustainable business that supports your desired lifestyle. You have the capabilities to do it. Your data consultancy journey begins now. Turn your expertise into a thriving business that creates wealth and opportunity. With that, I got 5 minutes, so I'll pause if there's any questions.
That was amazing. I feel like everybody's probably taking notes. But I'm going to ask you the question that's
Sure.
currently in the chat from Fred. I believe you were talking about how you communicate with your clients, and the question is, how do you find a good balance to ensure you're not over communicating with your client?
So it depends on who my client is, and you want to communicate things that they need. So if you're overly communicating technical aspects, where let's say I'll use Power BI because I use Power BI, right? So just say like, hey, I'm creating this dashboard and I need to update my DAX formula because my uh, all selected calculation is not working because of your data model, blah, blah, blah. That's not really a valuable communication piece. You can just say like, hey, I'm working on something. There's some calculations where I need to update. I will deliver said thing in this amount of time. But you want to have just at least a weekly recap. But then also at the same time, you want to deliver if there's any delays or different things of that nature. And then you want to meet them where they're at. So you kind of want to understand their personality. So if the personality is like, I like daily updates, then, you can provide them if you're an over communicator. That's fine. Some clients, like, they don't really care sometimes. So it's just like meet them where they're at. So they're just like, all right, once a week email is fine, or you can do every other, right? Whatever it is, right? But you just want to make sure that it's not like so frequent that it gets lost. If you can package up some of your communication in 1 or 2 emails, then I think that will be received better versus just like, oh damn, I got another email. Sekou about, you just want to package it up and accordingly. I hope that answers that. All right. As a freelancer, do you have the leverage to push back on certain requests from clients? I do now. I mean, probably I did before, but I think internally, I just become more comfortable with who I am in the skill set and kind of just the value that I have. So now, because of the internal piece that I feel inside, I will push back because I've either gained experience with these clients or with these different projects, or me, I'm not so fearful that if I say that I don't want to do this or this is within this realm, that this client will go away, right? So all this internal fear that we all have when stepping on this, independent journey, as you evolve, then yeah, you can push back a little bit more, and then within there, I think just yeah, I think the more you do it, the more you leverage pushback. But initially, yeah, there's always some fear there with doing it, but as you just grow and get better at it, it becomes a little bit easier.
Thank you. And thank you, Fred, for the question. I see Joyce, you have your hand up. Uh, can speak.
Yes, good morning. Amazing presentation. I think I'm in the opposite opposite situation that you're in. I've done a lot of consultancy in my lifetime with, the big ones, Price Waterhouse, BAE, Lockheed Martin, such as that. I am close to retirement, so I can retire next year. And I just want to do it as a part-time gig to stay relevant and to have my little spending gas money in California. I need a job specifically for that. What if I just wanted to stay as a consultant? I don't want a company. I don't, after, 37 years of people, I don't want people.
Yeah.
I don't want a company. I don't want to manage anybody but me. And so how do you still be good and then allow yourself, which is kind of crazy, to not grow into a company?
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I think one, congrats on retirement and still wanting to go after it. That's awesome to begin there. I'm honestly doing that now. Like I technically I'm a CEO, right? It's a title I gave myself, but there's only like 5 of us who are partnering together, and I'm keeping it that way. It's just like here are the things that I want to do. Sekou Tyler wants to do Power BI and Tableau work. Here are the people that I know will pay for it. So if you work for a consulting firm, you already know what the rates are. You know how people are finding clients and stuff, and you have the relationships built out. And so within there, it's just like, all right, here's what I want to do. Here's just the things that I want to do to keep me busy. Do I have networks and relationships built out that I will have consistent work? And you do that, you'll be fine. So you don't have to grow it to be a bigger thing or, branding and stuff. It's just all about the revenue. So I think the independent route is the flexibility of, whether I want to grow and turn to this thing or if I just want some financial freedom, you have the flexibility there.
Yeah, yes. And then one last question. So I have a lot of friends that are in the data science AI arena that keep saying, "Oh, let us do something together, go after some grants, go after some contracts and things like that." How do you tell them that you don't want to? It's okay when we're working for the federal government and they're paying you, but I know your work ethics, I know your everything. And so you're probably not my favorite person that I would want to work with. So how do you go about like picking the right contractor people? I mean, I have several that I would be, I would
Yeah.
work because I know how they work. But then I have several that I think are looking to just jump on the bandwagon.
Right.
And we will have to turn the wagon over because that's not gonna happen. You're not gonna mess up my brand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I get it. I understand completely. And I I only work with people that I really, really trust.
Right.
And because it's such a small, because I'm back hands on keyboard, so I don't technically have to do anything, right? If I want to, I can keep all the revenue myself or I can build out the grants myself. But when it comes to like, if I want to build a coalition and we go after a grant together, yeah, it would be tactful for people that I trust with. And if people want to, come on or help out, you just have a casual conversation like, not at this time, I don't really have the bandwidth or I'm not really focusing on that right now, whatever, right? Somehow you just message it differently. But yeah, I would be really particular about, who you work with and say yes to.
Yes, and that's also why I haven't even told a lot of people about this idea of even doing this because I don't want to have to be telling them no, like right now, even though there's nothing there, but just to not even get them um, in that frame of mind. I want to be the opposite of Jesse Jackson. I don't want to keep hope alive. I don't want them to be thinking that something's going to happen and it's not. So I'm going to be anti Jesse Jackson.
No, I don't think there's anything wrong with it, man. You just like,
Okay.
especially going out, you're fine. Like and it happens all the time. Like there are plenty of people who might not want to work with me because I'm too busy or something like that. Like it just happens. Like it's just, but you keep it moving and you focus on yourself, whatever it is that you want to do first. Finding people that want to help you out in your vision and just keep it moving.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.
While we are here, Ms. Joyce, respectfully, would you like me to edit this out? Because you don't want a lot of people to know. I know you two were chatting. This is recorded. If you would like to, let us know. Like just that bit. Yeah, just wanted to throw that out there. Yes, she is a wordsmith. Like the way you described that, and that was really good. Yeah, any last questions here? This was really good. Like, thank you for talking about the things that no one talks about.
Yeah, of course. Anytime, man. People be scared about this stuff, but it's like what you need to know. Like, it's if you're like everybody's just like, I'll be an entrepreneur and I'll be independent. Like, nah, there's like 4 other steps you need to think about long term. So anytime, anytime.
Yeah. Mary. Well, I don't see any things in the chat other than a lot of praise and thank yous.
Add me on LinkedIn if you haven't already. I'm
Yeah,
accessible. Reach out to me. Like, seriously, I will have one-on-one conversations with anybody, especially if you spend an hour with me rambling and talking to listen. So I'm very accessible. Add me on all platforms. I'm big advocate for Black prominence, financial independence, all that stuff. So hit me up.
thank you all. Thank you, Sekou. And I just dropped our survey. If you have any feedback for us or our presenter, as always, please share. Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming on a Friday. Have a lovely weekend, everyone. And we have one more session at 3 p.m. So if you would like to see the most creative person who I have seen use code to connect colors and food and music, come to Kofi's session.